Hello and welcome. Welcome to Quilt Conversations Live. I'm Geraldine Wilkins, the Living Water Quilter. I'm so glad to be with you today. How are you? Today is March 1st. Can you believe we already are in March? Hello, Lori. Hello, Rochelle. So glad that you're here. Hello, Kimberly. How are you? So I think, Rochelle, you had a question. Where are stars? What are stars? Now, I am live on Facebook and YouTube. Each platform has their unique way to help content creators like myself get support. And support happens in multiple ways. You can like a video, you can share a video, you can comment on a video. On Facebook, you can also click something called stars. It tells Facebook that you watched the content, that you enjoyed it, and then they help me as a creator to make more content by giving me a little bit of, little dinero. And each star matters. Each star matters. So it doesn't matter if I'm live or if you see a video reel, whether it's YouTube or Facebook, make sure you comment, you share. All of that matters to both platforms and it helps me. So I appreciate that. And on YouTube, if you look below the video, there are other options for monetary support. You can send something called a super chat. You can join my membership on Facebook or on YouTube. Facebook, it's called subscribers. Either way, all of those help me to continue to make more content, right? So I appreciate that. And you can also guess what? Did you notice back here the date night tote? I didn't show that to you last time. I also have new date night mugs. Let me go to my overhead camera. Let's see, overhead. So this is a cup. It's metal. It's not really for hot drinks. It's more for cold drinks. But it has date night on both sides. Isn't that neat? I love it. And in addition to that, stickers for date night. Do you want a date night sticker? So you can get a date night sticker, right? Or let's see, what else do I have here? Date night sticker, a drinking cup, and back here is a zippered pouch. Zippered pouch. Awesome. So there are many ways in which you can help me as a creator on YouTube and Facebook. It will help me to continue to spend hours and hours and hours making videos for your benefit, right? Okay, so now that I've made you aware of that, what else did I want to tell you? If you are new, welcome. I'm so glad that you're here. Don't forget that I have a lot of content on both platforms. Go through the video files, go through the playlist, and watch some of those because there's a lots of information. And ladies, I know if you are a old timer, you can share in the comments to let people know that if they've missed previous live sessions, there's a lot of information. Hello, Jacqueline. So glad that you're here. There are a lot of ways that I want to help you, and I do that with this live session, Quilt Conversations Live, right? I also create short little video tutorials, and I also create classes both for in-person events and on demand. So there's multiple ways in which you can get help with your quilting. You can go to my website, and if you haven't been there in a while, go take a look around. I'm adding courses, and this year so far, I've added 2 more courses. So right behind me, over my shoulder, is the star quilt, and that is to help you with your ruler quilting. If you are new to straight line ruler quilting, or you started but you're still struggling a little bit, this course is for you. It's an on demand class. Now, which means that you can get it any time you want, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's not subscription based, it's a one time thing, and there's lots of information to help you win at ruler quilting, to be successful. The class includes diagrams so you know exactly what you're stitching and how you're stitching it. It also includes step-by-step instructions via video. You get video demos and you get the pattern in 3 different sizes. So you make whatever size you want, and then you practice straight line ruler quilting. By the end, when you finish this class, you are going to finish a beautiful quilt, but also you are going to increase your confidence. The more we quilt, the more confidence we develop. And if you have guided help with diagrams and video instruction that you can go to anytime, you are going to succeed if you do the work. So I encourage you to check that out if you haven't already, especially if you want to increase your ruler quilting. And you can do this on a domestic machine or on a sit-down long arm. It doesn't matter, right? And I give you all kinds of tips on what ruler to get and how to use the ruler. Everything is included in the course, step by step. So that's what I started with. Wanted to give you a brief update on the merch, how you can click the stars and do super chats on YouTube. What else did I want to share with you? Who else is here that I missed? Jacqueline's here, Lori's here, Kimberly, Sharon, hello, hello, and Wilda is here, I think. Yep, there's Wilda. Aloha. Great. So, what else have I been up to? I've been busy doing all kinds of things that are behind the scenes. I wish I could say that I did some sewing recently. I haven't done any sewing, very little quilting. So nothing really to share on that side. But as a result of making the videos, I get all kinds of questions and comments. And so one in particular talked about how we can practice and preview designs. That's what we're going to talk about tonight. It's kind of a beginner introductory and reminder for those who maybe are not doing this, because whether you're a beginner or, to me, advanced, I would consider myself an advanced quilter, but I didn't start here. The same things that I started as a beginner, I still do. And I want to encourage you to do the same thing. So way back when I started simply with a pencil and a piece of paper to practice free motion movements from one end of one sheet of paper to the next. That's a simple, low cost. Most of us have copy paper. Most of us have a pencil or a pen. And that's what I would do. Let's go to the overhead camera. All right, so I have a sheet of paper here. Whoops. And so everything I'm going to share tonight, for the most part, is no cost to low cost. So first, sheet of paper, a pencil. What you want to practice is being able to move, right, in a certain direction. Meander, right? That's a meander or stipple, people call it. And we talked about this before. But one of the challenges that we have as quilters when we're first starting is, how do we prevent ourselves from getting boxed in a corner? And so that's something I practice. I will take a piece of paper, right? And I want to continuously stitch without boxing myself in the corner. If this is the edge of the quilt, right? This is the edge. And I'm going along, right? Like this. All of a sudden now I'm boxed in because I can't get from here to this empty spot. So that is something that I practice with paper and pen. And I do that not only with, as a beginner, with a meander, right? I do it with every design that is a edge to edge design. So as a beginner, you want to practice your movements across the surface of a quilt. The trick with meander is that we don't want it to look, unless you want to do that on purpose, we don't want it to look like a row of designs unless you want to. If you want the meander or stippling to look random, you have to practice moving in a random way without getting boxed in. Now, I'm going to tell you, guess what? You're going to get boxed in, right? It's going to happen. And the only thing you do is you break thread and you move on, right? Hello, Benita. So glad that you're here. Let me check the chat. Hello, Sally. So glad that you're here. Who else is here? Did I miss? Oh, there goes Jordan. K. Jordan, welcome. You finally made the live. Fantastic. Awesome. So I do this not just as a beginner, I do it as an advanced quilter. No matter what the design is, I am taking out my paper, and if the design is, say, plume party, right, and I want it to be random, and I'm doing some echoes, I am still going to practice going from one area to the next. That's why you want to have a system, at least in my estimation, systematic approach to being able to stitch from one edge of the quilt to the other, no matter what design you have. So that means not only do you have to practice the design, you have to practice your movement from one area of the quilt to the next. Now, after you start using paper, you're gonna start saying, okay, I'm gonna have to buy reams and reams of paper. Usually I recycle. If I have something that I've printed out that I no longer need, or if I get junk mail and the backside is blank, that is my practice paper. I use that to practice. But eventually you also run out of that kind of paper. So from paper, as a beginner, I went to a whiteboard. Let me use this one here. This is a whiteboard. Yes, you have to plan your practice, and I call it practicing with purpose. Because if you just practice without a specific purpose, you may not see the results that you want. So I go to a whiteboard, and I like to use a dry erase whiteboard. And I'll do the same techniques. Either I'm practicing one design that I want to do over and over. It's an edge to edge. And I practice. And from here, that's when I will go to a practice sandwich, right? But I'm practicing over and over, right? And as I do that, I begin to learn where I need to improve. Do I need to improve going from right to left, or left to right, or up and down? Do I need to make some changes in the way the design looks or the spacing? And you know what, ladies? A bonus is that as we do this, you will come up with additional designs. The things that we call errors or mistakes, and they're repeated, are often indicators that you have a propensity to go in a certain direction. So lean into that and see how you can use that for your advantage. Okay, so this is nice, right? Because we can erase it. and we can start over. If you use a whiteboard and you do something that you like, make sure you take a photo. Take a photo of it so that you can use it later. Okay? Now, as you start to practice individual designs, you're going to want to learn how to scale or change the size of your design. Sketch pad is a good way, mechanical pencils, whatever works for you. So tonight I'm showing a lot of different ways that you can practice. Paper and pen, pencil and pen, whatever works for you, whiteboard. This particular whiteboard is two-sided, right? Plain on this side, and in this side it has ruled lines. Why do we want ruled lines? Scale. Because in our quilts, we have some areas of patchwork that are big, hourglass, half square triangles that might be big in size, or we might have some negative space. Either way, if we're going around, say, an applique, and you want to stitch in the background of an applique, and you want a particular design, you don't want maybe to stitch it very big. You might want to stitch it small. So that's where you're going to practice using ruled lines. You can decide, I want to stitch small. So the red is going to be, maybe the blue. Blue is going to be my small, and red is going to be my big in terms of size. So if you were doing a meander, because you can do this with meander as well, and here's our meander, right? Going in one direction, that's small. If I'm doing red to red for the larger scale, now I have a way to measure for consistency in size. Okay. If I'm doing pebbles, same thing. Decide which lines. Now, I used to take the paper and I would create my own lines. That's more work, right? So you can also, if you are a paper and pen person or pencil person, you can go to the dollar store and get sheets of paper with these lines on them. They make them for school children to learn their letters. And so basically that's what we're doing, right? Now I want to make this big. So you want to practice that, right? Once you have practiced small, medium, and large design scales, you want to practice it without the lines. You want to go back to a plain side and practice your small scale circles or O's, right? That's medium. That's not really small. If I want to go really small, I want to practice that, right? Then I want to practice large. If you want to practice, instead of going in a straight line like these, you want to do a curvy, you will practice your circles or your design on that curve. Right? Is that making sense to everybody? All right. Questions? Any questions? All right. So, if you are on YouTube, I left links in the video description box below for all the tools that I'm showing you tonight, so you can get this one. This is a heavy duty. It's a heavy weight, and I bring this usually to class with me because then I can stand in front of the classroom and hold it up. All right. Now, sometimes if my luggage is very packed with other supplies and I have to consider weight, I look for things that are lighter but still do the same thing. And this is contact paper. It's a peel and stick whiteboard. So I can peel this off if I so choose and stick it on anything I want. But it's a whiteboard, which I love, right? Removable. It's a dry erase. Let's see if I can get this. You can buy it by the sheet at the dollar store, or you can buy it by the roll, right? For me as a traveling teacher, if I need this for a demo for overhead camera like I'm doing right now, this is lightweight. I can easily pack this in my suitcase or my carry-on bag. It's thin, it's not heavy. But it's also bigger. It's bigger than this, right? Bigger than this. And so I have more area to play with, right? But I love that this is also something that I can practice, right? Okay, practice, and then I can just keep going and take a picture when I like it. If I don't like it, erase it and start over. And I recommend getting this eraser. Using a regular piece of tissue doesn't always get off the dry erase ink. I would use this, and then there are some spray cleaners that over time it can build up on all of the whiteboards, and I usually, after, I don't know, a certain amount of time, it starts to look cloudy, then I break out that cleaner and clean off to get it back to its original condition. Okay, I like to see lots of chalk guided markers in the future to create pebble curve. Okay. Now, we've talked about, let me go back to this here, host view here. So basically, we've talked about how you're going to practice, right? Whether it's you're getting started and stippling or any design that you want to learn. You want a systematic way to improve with that design. One, paper and pen, or whiteboard and marker. You want to get something that has ruled lines or create your own so that you can practice the scale of that design. And then you want to practice how to move across the surface of the quilt, left to right, up and down. And initially, you might want to try doing it that way just to see how it feels to go left and right. Now, if you're in the alphabet design course, and many of you are, and those who submitted assignments this week, congratulations. I'm so glad that you are working on your skills. When you use the alphabet design drills, you are learning how to move in different directions. That is important. Left, right, diagonal, up, down, backwards, and forwards. When we are stitching on a home machine, the benefit of free motion quilting over walking foot quilting is to be able to go in any direction. So the more you practice going in every direction, the better you will be at stitching out stencils and other designs. And you will not have to rotate your quilt because you will be able to stitch a design in any direction. So if you're making a list, those are the things that you want to practice whenever you are starting a new design. Learn the design, number one. Number two, you want to practice the scale of the design, small, medium, and large. Number three, how to move across the surface of the quilt, right? So you want to then practice how to stitch that same design in different directions. And you can do that with one design for 6 months. If you've been here in the past, if you're new, I've already shared that I will take a design that I'm learning, and for 1 year on every quilt, I will stitch that design every single way I can, small, medium, large, in the background, in the foreground, over the entire quilt. I might add some straight line echo quilting or other types of straight line ruler quilting to divide the space to give it more interest, but everything else is filled with that design so I can learn that design. All right, so what about going to the next step? You've done all this hard work, right? You've invested all this time. And if you were like me, years ago, I purchased a lot of stencils. Stencils. Do any of you have these stencils? Let me see if I can pull it apart here. A stencil like this, right? Border stencil, a beautiful stencil like this one. Another beautiful stencil, maybe this kind, right? I have a wall full of stencils. Here's another one. Here's another one. I have lots of stencils. When, let me get something to drink here. When I started free motion quilting, the first thing is, can I set up? So Rochelle, she says, I have too many stencils to count. Right, lots of stencils, right? So I was optimistic. Even though my quilting friends at the time said, don't even try free motion quilting, it's too hard. I didn't give up. I was not going to let their experience, if you will, dictate whether I was going to try or not. So I went, I got my stencils, and then I quickly learned that, well, I don't have the skill yet to follow a stencil. What am I going to do to learn how to follow a stencil? So because I already started practicing with stippling meander, I did that for several years before I went to anything else, right? So before I could go to the stencils, I really practiced a lot with meander. And I want to show you, okay, can I show you my early free motion quilting? I saved it. Can I show it to you? Let me know in the chat. Can I show you my early free motion quilting meander samples? I have a book of it. I have it right here. Here they are. These are my early free motion quilting samples. Yes. I'm going to, this is what I usually bring to my free motion quilting classes when I'm teaching. Okay, so everyone says, yes, show us. Okay. Because I feel like when you see someone who has been doing it and practicing for a long time, and that was one of the comments someone put on Facebook this week. They said that they don't have that quality of stitching yet. Their designs aren't at that level yet. And I thought, well, it's a journey. And I said, you'll get there. And so I want to show you that, yes, we all have a beginning. So let me show you my beginning. Let me go to my overhead camera. So here is my book, right? I have them saved in these sleeves. I'll take one out. This is a darker one, but I saved this. I didn't throw it away because I wanted to see, and now, like any other woman, I'm a multitasker, right? So not only did I practice my stippling, my meander, I said, I want to see how this brown goldish thread looks on purple. Hopefully you can see that that's purple. But I also used a lighter fabric in the back. So for every quilt sandwich, I said I'm going to try different threads and different fabric combinations so that I could have a record of what color thread works with what fabric, right? guess I'm gonna have to fix that later. Let's fix that later. So here's the next one. So that was very loose. This is very loose, right? So I practiced the scale of the meander. Loose, tighter, variegated thread. Then I added loops to it. It looks kind of dark. Let me see if you can see that okay. How does it look on camera? Can you see the thread? I'm wondering. Let me see if I can go here. Yeah, I guess it looks okay. It looks kind of dark to me on my end. All right. Yeah, so I saved it. And it's important to do that because sometimes we feel like we're not making progress. And you are. It's just because we're too close to it. We're too close. Jacqueline, thank you. We can see it. All right, great. Thank you, Jordan. It looks good. So meander and a loop, right? And I changed the color, remember, the fabric. Then I said, I'm going to add something other than loops in between the meander. So I have leaves and I would have different colors, right? Let's see, we take this out of the plastic. Maybe that will help a little bit. See that a little bit better. Yeah. So early free motion quilting. And remember, I changed the fabric so that I could see how the thread looks. Same thread, how it looks with different color fabrics. So I was trying to maximize my time testing both my skills in free motion quilting and also experimenting with thread and fabric choice. Then I started to do some flames, but I still did meander and I added something else, right? And then I also changed the batting. This one is a little bit thicker, so I also experimented with batting choices. All right, more flames, more meander with leaves. Then I added stars. A little lighter would be great. Okay, because it was looking dark to me, Lori, but I think these lighter fabrics look better. So I'll just concentrate on these. Stars. Let's see, what else did I try? Here's this one. Let me open this one up. Then I did some echoing of a leaf shape to create something a little bit different. So I think you ladies get the picture, right? So I saved these, and you can do the same thing. I started doing flowers. And once you start to do the meander and you get more confident and comfortable and you start adding leaves, then flowers, and then you combine them. Here's the leaf with the flower in between the meander. This is the very early years of my free motion quilting experience. Okay. And then remember we talked about scale. Let's see on this side. Making the flowers vary in size within the same design. So if you're practicing your scale, small or medium and then large. And then I added loops. So can you ladies see the progression of how you can slowly add to your designs, right? This was all before, let me go back to host view. There we go. All right, so these were all before I went to the stencils because I'm practicing my technique. I'm practicing using my machine and my hand movements. And as I added a leaf and a flower, I was practicing stitching in certain directions within a small area, right? Now, the next level is going to the stencils, right? Let me move this over here. All right. Oh, before I do that, before I go to the stencils, what else can you do with your sample free motion? And I shared a post this week about how we can use it to make all sorts of things. So if you're not following me on Facebook, follow me on Facebook. Look for on my page. There's a 3 photo collage of a cover made with samples, free motion quilting practice pieces, samples. In the comment thread, other ladies have talked about how they have used samples to make a eyeglass case. They've used it to make the strap cover for their seat belt, which I think is a neat idea. I think I want to do that. I haven't done that so far. All kinds of ideas. So go check that out. So the first thing that I did was make a sewing machine cover. This is my first sewing machine cover. Let me see if I can sit back a little bit and hold this up. So these are those samples. Instead of it being in the book, it's now a cover. Mug rugs, coasters. Yes, Sharon, we can use them for all sorts of things. Pot holders. Yes, Elizabeth. Yes, exactly. Exactly. Right? So let me go to my overhead camera. So these are my early free motion quilting designs. And what I would do is that I would take a fat quarter and I would cut the fat quarter in half and then cut it in half again. Okay. Here's a meander one. Here's a meander with a leafy design. Okay. And then I simply did a quilt as you go serger technique. So you take a piece of fabric, you fold it in half, you put the batting in, and then you go through your serger right here, and then you fold it over, and then it's done. That's it. And you make this as long or short as you need it for your machine. Right? So one piece of fabric, fold it in half, insert the batting, put that right on top, and then you just stitch it along with your serger all the way around. Yes, that's a good idea. Tea cozy, awesome idea. Okay, so this is one of my early ones, and then here's another one. Oh, that's going to be really dark. Let's see. Let me go to my host view again. Maybe you'll be able to see this one a little bit better. Okay. Yeah, get that one. This was during my feather stage. I was trying to learn how to do feathers. So for a couple of years, I practiced feathers, stitching them from the bottom to the top, from the top to the bottom, stitching from the left to the right. I was practicing feathers, feathers, feathers. They were in everything. So pick a design that you want to learn and then just keep stitching it over and over again. Right? So these are from my early free motion quilting. All right. Now, stencils. Going back to that. So I did all that practice, right? I've learned how to stitch in multiple directions and I have these stencils. So how do I practice a stencil before I actually stitch it, right? How do I do that? Let's go back to the overhead camera. So if you want to practice a stencil, one way that you can do it is to take the stencil and mark it on a piece of paper. Okay, so you take it with a pencil and you trace it. Trace it on the paper. So I did one there of that one. I did the rope on this side. Okay. And then I did another one up here. Or you can just take one stencil and repeat it all the way across with pencil. With pencil or pen, doesn't matter. Let me just make this a little bit darker so that you can see it. So it doesn't matter what kind of stencil it is. I encourage you to put it on paper, just like you see here. All right, let me make this darker. And then if for some reason, like I have, it's too light, you make it darker. And you can also connect those spaces, right? So these would be connected, right, when you're stitching. You wouldn't have these gaps. The gaps are only there so that the stencil doesn't fall apart, right? So fill in the gaps. Fill in the gaps and make it nice and dark. Okay. So as a newbie, I would not be able to follow this consistently. I don't expect for it to be perfect even when I've practiced a lot, meaning perfectly on top of the stencil line. If it veers off a little bit, no problem, right? Okay. All right. You are welcome, Jacqueline. Okay, so now I have that, right? Oops, one more. And I want to practice this over and over again. I can't really use a whiteboard, right? I can't use a whiteboard. So I need something clear to be able to do that. Need something clear to be able to practice the movement. And why do we want to practice the movement? We want to practice it because we need to think about the stitching path. How do we get from here to here? Will I have to stitch with double stitching, meaning backtracking? I can stitch this one continuously, right? I don't have to backtrack over previous threads. That's kind of obvious, right? That's obvious on that one. But how do I do this one and this one? Do I go like this and like that? So that's what you have to determine. What is going to be your stitching path? And how are you going to practice that over and over again? Are you going to trace through the stencil? No, you don't have to do it. You just trace it once. Then what you do is you get one of these sleeves. You get a sleeve like this. Hopefully you've seen it before. If not, let me pull this out. Oops, mangling that paper. There we go. All right. So this is what this is. You can get this at the dollar store. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it in lots of places. Reusable pocket dry erase. Reusable pocket dry erase. I love what's coming. I use them for pattern notes. Awesome. Fantastic. So now that I've taken time with my stencil to put it on paper, all I have to do is put it inside this pocket, right? Put it inside here. It's a lot of static trying to get this in here. Okay. It's clingy. It's clinging. Let's see if I can get this in a little bit more. All right, finally, there we go. So now all I need is my dry erase markers, right? That's it. And now I can practice the movement, right? Am I okay with stitching this design left to right? Or do I want to stitch it in a vertical fashion? Right? I can practice that over and over again, that movement, before I stitch it on fabric. Okay? And then I can just erase it. There we go. Now, remember we said these two were kind of tricky. Where am I going to start and stop? How do I make this rope design and not have to break thread? Well, I do this, go like this, and then come up. That's going to be up to you to see what feels natural to you to do. What doesn't feel awkward? You practice the stitching path. And if you need to, which I recommend, if you have decided that you want to use a stencil in a project, you're going to trace the stencil on paper, you're going to put it in a pocket, you're going to trace it out, and then you're going to put arrows to remember 1 and then 2, right? You're going to practice this on paper, write the directions, what you think is going to work. Then you're going to go where? You're going to go to a practice quilt sandwich. What do you ladies think of that? What do you ladies think of that? Let me know in the chat. Is this helpful? Is this helpful? Is this helpful? Let me know. So Kimberly says she uses these pockets for patterns. She's seen them before. That's great to know. The thing is, no matter what steps you take, if you repeat the steps for learning a design, getting better at stitching a design, getting more proficient at putting it in your quilt, whatever those steps are, if you repeat those over and over again, it becomes an automatic thing that you do. Think about anything that you do on a regular basis, like cooking. If there's a dish that you know how to make, you know exactly what ingredients you need, you quickly go to the cabinet, go to the fridge, you pull out all the ingredients. You don't have to look at the recipe anymore. You don't need the step-by-step instructions because you've done it over and over and over again. You know exactly what's next. You know how it's going to turn out. It's not like, oh, I'm experimenting with this recipe and you don't know what it's going to taste like or what it's going to look like. If you do the same thing with free motion quilting, you will have what I call repeatable results. Something that you know, if you do this, 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 and this, you're going to get this result. All right. Okay, Rochelle, you can start today. Trial and error, yes, helps to practice each stitching routine. Yes, exactly. Yes, and that is the beauty that we have a diverse level of quilters in the chat on Facebook and YouTube. So you pick based on what I share today, what will help you get more consistent with learning free motion quilting wherever you are. If you're not at stencils, no problem. Go back to the beginning, exactly where I started, and start with paper and pen and do meander and practice that. Maybe you're not even at that point. Maybe you need to learn how to set up your machine. You need to learn more about needles and thread. Wherever you are, make it part of your consistent journey so that you can always know that you will get consistent results, right? Okay, so what else did I want to share with you? Oh, the same techniques that I've used starting from way back. I showed you my beginning free motion quilting. I applied similar techniques to ruler quilting, right? Ruler quilting has the same practice techniques. And the practice techniques, let me see. I don't think I'll share this with you. I don't know. I always have a lot that I want to show and share with you, but sometimes I think I share too much and then ladies get all confused. Let me know if I should show you more samples of free motion quilting, or should I start talking about the ruler quilting? Let me know, ladies. What would you like? I only have a couple more, I think, to share. Um oh, I know what I wanted to share with you. That's important. The reason why we do all this work ahead of time, right? The last way to preview a design that I haven't shared yet is using plexiglass with a quilt block. Plexiglass with a quilt block, right? That's actually a very important stage. I'm glad I remembered to share that. So you don't get to vote on that because I think I have to share it. Okay. I'm voting for all of us. Okay, here we go. So here is a quilt block, right? It's maybe a quilt block that's going to be in your final quilt. You have an extra quilt, which block, which I recommend. Always make an extra quilt block if you can, right? So that you can preview your design. You get your plexiglass. You can go to any box store. I put a video on my Facebook and YouTube channel about this technique. Put some tape around it. Put it right over the quilt block. Yes, it is. Oh, thank you, Jacqueline. I'm glad you feel that way. Yay. Hey, Lori. Yes, the plexiglass. Now, I have multiple sizes. As you can see, this doesn't cover the entire quilt block, right? So that can be a little frustrating. So I always get one that will cover at least 15 inches square, right? So then you have plenty of space for a 12.5-inch quilt block. Most of us don't make a quilt block bigger than 12.5 inches, but sometimes we do. And if you are that person, get one that's at least 18 inches square, right? So I can go over any area with this smaller one and say, I want to stitch in each one of these colors, blue, yellow, green, orange, a very particular design. And I want to practice that design. Maybe, you can't see that. Let me see. Maybe I might use yellow instead for on-camera purposes. And I'm stitching a meander in a very particular way. That's not showing. Throw that one away. There we go. I think that's better. Right? Now, I can do that, but then I'll have to break thread. How can I do this so that I don't break thread? How do I do that if I want to go from one color to the next? And that's what I would practice. I would practice how I can go from one to the next, right? So I could do something like this, go in that direction, go all the way around in a circular pattern until I come back here, right? But then I might leave a gap. Will I have to backtrack? Those are the things that I would consider when using the plexi. Ah, Terry says she loves it. Really helps to see what works. It does, it does, it does. And then don't forget, take a picture, right? And I encourage you to push the envelope, so to speak. Start with what you know and then say, hey, why don't I try an echo around the shape? I would like to do an echo around the shape. My markers are running low. I need to get some new ones. Right? And you say, okay, I like that. What do I want to do inside here? Maybe nothing. Or maybe I just want to do for an X. It's really up to you. That's what you want to do. You take a picture and then you erase it and you try something else. Then you compare one photo to the next and see which one you really like. All right. Overhead. There we go. I remember now. I'm glad I was able to share that with you. Now, the last thing on ruler quilting. Remember, I said I do the same thing, right? I practice when I'm making a new design, especially for classes. I use paper and a pencil and my eraser, and I start practicing with that ruler to learn how to stitch designs with the ruler. Are there cases where we can break thread? Well, Kimberly, the thing that I like is to minimize how much I can break thread. So there's a series of things that I start to consider with one, the thread weight. If I backtrack and I'm using a heavyweight thread like 40, which means I'll have a lot of thread if I have a lot of backtracking because I want to avoid breaking thread. I might not like that look. So I might break thread more often based on a design. So there are some edge to edge designs that require backtracking and there's some that don't. So that's something to consider, whether it's a stencil or any design, how much backtracking is there? What thread weight am I using? And if I don't want that kind of heaviness of thread, am I willing to break thread? And then I'll have to bury, 50 gazillion tails of thread. But if you love the design, you're going to be willing to bury all that thread. So it's your personal choice how much and how often you break thread. I try to minimize that, but it's also based on the final look of the quilting. If I want to stitch something that has a lot of backtracking or doesn't, I think that helps. All right, so we're just about done, but I wanted to show you that as I work on a design, and I'll use the ruler quilting class that's now available. Yes, that is true, Terry. If you are echo quilting, you will bury thread or you will continue to stitch. So depending upon the full design, that's why you want to preview. I have learned that sometimes I can do an echo and then do the free motion quilting on the inside of the echo. So that's something to consider. Let me go to the overhead camera. So after I've practiced on paper and pen, with paper and pencil, I will then do a small quilt sandwich. And this is in the Curves Ruler Quilting Challenge that's on my website right now. It's a class that you can take. I show you exactly how to stitch out this design. And you go start with a small quilt sandwich. That's to learn how to stitch it. All the ways you have to mark it in order to get this design. You learn how to do it. Once you get confidence, you go bigger. You go bigger. And so this is the one where I went bigger. Right? I went bigger. And this is half of a fat quarter. Remember I mentioned earlier that I take a fat quarter when I'm practicing. So this is a fat quarter. I will fold it in half. Do you notice that this is exactly the size of this sample? It's half of a fat quarter. On my smaller sizes, I will cut the half in half. So now this would be a small practice piece, half, so it's 1/4 of a fat quarter. When I want more practice, I will do half of a fat quarter. If I want even more, I do a whole fat quarter, right? A whole fat quarter of one design. Depends on what I am learning. If I'm learning or if I'm just practicing to warm up. There's a difference between learning and a difference between warming up, right? Warming up means you know how to do the design, but you need some practice and you want to make sure that you remember. So once you go here, then you want to put it on something a little bit bigger, like one of my quilt panels, right? A quilt panel where you don't have to worry about seams. It's all about the technique, right? Learning how to stitch the technique and do a variation. So the variation is, instead of this stitched left to right, it's stitched on the diagonal. Okay? So progressive, it's the same technique when I was learning free motion quilting, right? I'm still practicing the same habits because I know how I learn. You may learn differently. You may get better at a particular skill differently than I do. Whatever that is, just repeat it. Do it over and over again, right? And then lastly, you want to start to combine. Practice combining techniques that you know. If you know walking foot, if you know hand stitching, big hand stitches, which is a beautiful design in quilting, if you like your machine decorative stitches, combine them to make your quilt shine, right? You can do that combining techniques. And so as I learn, I will quilt what I know and add something new. Okay? I know it's already 8 o'clock. We are almost done. If you are willing, we can hang around just a little bit more. This is the last sample I want to show you. But I wanted to learn how to use these new acrylic rulers that make this kind of design, the spirograph type design. So I took a fat quarter and I stitched out the design because I knew it was big. It's a block, I call it a block-based design. Then I gave it a frame. Then I did some free motion quilting, what I already know around it. Once I was finished, it became a zippered pouch. So it's a zippered pouch now, right? Okay. So it was a collection, a set of acrylic rulers that did this spirograph type set. I wanted to learn how to stitch all of those rulers in this set. So I took a fat quarter pack and used the fat quarters in it and then I did the same free motion quilting design around each of them, adding techniques, and they are all project zippered bags. Okay. And I used the binding from that same fat quarter pack. So there you have it, ladies. Awesome, awesome. Now, remember, I offer a lot of ways for you to go to the next step, right? Do you know I'm teaching at the American Quilter Society show in Paducah? If you didn't know that, just a quick reminder, you can get started with ruler quilting, straight edge ruler quilting with power lines. This actually is the most popular class. It's almost full. This one is learning straight line design techniques. The next one is a beginner class. It's circles, stitching circles to get more designs in your library of ruler quilting designs, just using one simple circle, multiple designs, easy for beginners. And then the one that's really fun that I love is the snowflake template. This template, you can make some amazing modern designs, borders, sashing, block-based designs, which means they have a nice central design. And you can see my samples there on a pillow, on a little mini quilt. Easy, 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 and fun. I show you how to do it easily and with fun. Every class includes pattern sheets, so you can reproduce this at home. You can reproduce it at home. And then the last one is the clamshell. It's a favorite. Everyone loves the clamshell. So that is another opportunity to learn or enhance your quilting, to add a new design. And one more, ladies, because I know all of you can't make Paducah, right? Not everyone can go to the show. So I've spent my time, hours of putting together online courses that you can take over and over again and learn techniques. Every class always includes the basics and other tips to help you improve your ruler quilting. And so for the next couple of months, it's been the Curves and Clams Ruler Kit by Bernina. If you're not familiar with the kit, this is the kit. And so I'm releasing a class for each one. The squiggle ruler at the top was the first one. The next is the XS curve ruler just below the squiggle. And the design that you see floating around in the background, this one is a design from the S curve ruler. This is a design from the S curve ruler. I show you very specific techniques with acrylic ruler quilting. They're designing techniques that you can use from one ruler to the next. I show you how to stitch on a home machine and a sit down long arm. And like I said before, I then take it to the next step and it's stitched on a quilt panel. And I want you to be able to go to the next step with your quilting. So for every single ruler quilting class, you will get 3 different designs. In each one, you learn different techniques so that you can enhance and increase your ruler quilting skills. But ultimately, it's so that you can finish more quilts. You can have more options. And the on-demand online virtual classes are 24 hours a day, unlimited access, right? Ladies, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I hope this was helpful. I hope you're going to use some of these tips. If you are watching on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe, give a thumbs up if you enjoyed this session, and don't keep it a secret. Tell your friends. Come and join us live on the 1st and 3rd Friday of the month. Let me know too in the comments or anywhere you see me online what topic you would like me to cover on a Quilt Conversations live. I generally like to do series, but today I wasn't sure what I was going to do, but I think it happened because I got some comments on Facebook. So if you're watching on Facebook, I'm so glad that you're here. I send out a whole bunch of invites, and thank you for responding to the invites. On Facebook, make sure you click the stars. If you click the stars, it is good for me because Facebook recognizes that you like Quilt Conversations Live, that you're spending time on my page. It doesn't matter if it's the live session or the reels, whether it's stars or flowers or anything that you can do to say, I enjoyed the content. Make a comment. Hit the like button. All of that matters, right? Thank you so much. Oh, yes, Lori, moderator extraordinaire. Thank you for moderating on YouTube tonight, Lori. As always, thank you. And thank you, Rochelle. Thank you, Sharon. Awesome. Have a good weekend. So glad that you were here. And Jacqueline, thank you. Awesome, awesome. Thank you, Joe. So glad that you were here. I'm glad you enjoyed the demo. Yes, awesome. All right, ladies, that's it for tonight. I'll see you next time for another Quilt Conversations Live. I'll see you online.